Hi guys, so I had somebody ask for a video on sort of how to know if you are still in a state of trauma from narcissistic abuse, and also maybe some ways to determine whether you are currently still in a relationship with somebody who's narcissistically abusing you. And so here are some of the signs that you might be in a relationship with a narcissist, whether that be a romantic relationship, a familial, colleague, friends or family, somebody who's close to you. But sort of, I'm going to zone in a little bit on like more of even the romantic relationship. So one of the number one signs is you don't really know where you stand in the relationship. The narc does this to keep you off balance and to maintain control. And so ask yourself, in the relationship with this narcissist, what is the narcissist withholding? How are they not identifying your place or your position in the relationship? This is a really common tactic for narcissists. They like to keep you on your toes. This is another thing they like to do is they let their victims make the decision first, and then they react to your decision. So they put the decision making sort of onto the victim, and they act like they're very like agreeable and sort of passive and sort of going along for stuff. But anytime you're saying, where am I in this relationship, and why am I the one making the decisions here, and those are signs to sort of look for. That whole thing of where the narcissist, acts very passive and has you sort of make the decisions, that is a control tactic. That is actually used by manipulators. It keeps you as the victim in this state of hypervigilance. You're just not sure where your place is, where you stand. You're kept on your toes, right? And when the narcissist sort of allows the victim to make the decision, then what they will do is they will judge, manipulate, critique the victim based on their decision and blame the victim for making that decision. So very common tactic used, a control tactic used by narcissists. And then to the outside world, it looks like, oh, look, that person, that woman that he was with was so overbearing in making all the decisions. And, look where she took him, made him do this and made him do that. And look what a bad decision that was, right? So basically to the outside world, it makes it look like, the narcissist is this passive, sort of easygoing person, and the other person is just this domineering, controlling person, right? So for instance, like in, a certain narcissist, they could be in a relationship, they could be married, and they could be manipulating somebody to sort of be in an affair with them. And then if that affair partner, makes the first move towards sort of like the physical or the sexual, component, then the narcissist is going to be able to blame that person in the future for ruining his marriage or ruining her own marriage. Right? So that's a really common tactic. They'll come across, the narcissist will also often come across as the follower. They will come across as very compliant. They let the victim go and make the decision so that they can trip them up. This is a very manipulative. It's the proverbial tripping the victim up and not taking any personal responsibility. The narcissist doesn't take any personal responsibility for their life, right? And then, so here are some signs that you're currently in a relationship with a narcissist, or that you're still suffering from the trauma of being in one of these relationships. Hypervigilance, that is one of the signs that you're in a state of hypervigilance. You don't know who to trust. You feel very on edge. Victims in these relationships have problems with concentration and focus. They may have perseverations in their brain. That's where the brain is perseverating over and over and over and over again, and fixating on something bad that happened or on the anguish, right? Flashbacks. These are emotional triggers. It almost feels like you're being trapped, in a place that you can't get out of, like this, definitely. And that can be like, you can get a trigger, a flashback, which is a trigger, and emotionally have this reaction. A lot of times that reaction can be one of terror, horror, or it can be anger, right? Any of those, and you're stuck in the state of like perseverating on whatever the narcissist did. That's really, really common. These are symptoms of complex PTSD, where you're sort of trapped in that emotional trigger and you can't get out. Your brain is perseverating. It's going over and over and over, whatever the incident was. You may find that you have a difficult time trusting yourself and trusting others. This state of hypervigilance, not knowing, you can't trust yourself, you can't trust others. You're feeling total anxiety. Looking at people, wondering, are they a narcissist? Are they going to hurt me? Are they out to hurt me? Usually, if you were in one of these relationships, you were subjected to gaslighting. That's where you are made to question your own reality. You are being psychologically manipulated to lose your sanity. Gaslighting is where a narcissist will tell you, what you saw, you didn't see what you saw, you didn't hear what you heard. I didn't say that, even though they did. It's all about that horrible psychological manipulation to make you question your own reality, to not trust yourself, and to question your sanity. It is a very manipulative tactic. This gaslighting is on this level is not usually used by normal people or healthy people. It's used by manipulators. Also, the narcissist uses silent treatment, manipulation techniques. They're used to sort of mess with you at this gut level, at this sort of spiritual and psychological and emotional level. This is like high level mind fuckery, where you're just being, manipulated to question your own reality. And again, it's very subtle. It cannot be seen on the outside world. So it may, you may not even know that this is happening to you, right? And then what all of this does is it forces the victim to sort of turn to the narcissist to sort of like help them navigate their life, because they don't trust themselves. They don't trust anyone. And this can cripple the victim's ability to even realize that they are in a relationship with somebody who is abusive. You have foggy brain. You don't know up from down. So a lot of times, like, you don't even know that that's what you're in until you start getting out of these relationships and you start doing some healing, and you can look back and you realize in all the ways in which you were abused. And it can be, this is a very compelling control tactic for narcissists, because it makes it very hard for the victim to navigate their way out of the toxic relationship. Other signs of trauma that you still may be either in the middle of an abusive relationship, or that you haven't healed from the trauma, is, you may have problems with your memory, with concentration, massive anxiety, issues seeing the world as good. You may be looking at the world like, is anyone good, or are all people bad? And, it really makes you start questioning the belief in that people can be decent in this world. You might feel full of fear, worry, you're fearful of people. Again, you have a hard time trusting. And other symptoms can be insomnia, night terrors, trouble sleeping, lots of trouble with even with irritability. And if you've experienced any of this, especially like I'm really thinking about the flashbacks. Like, you could be driving down the street, maybe where you used to live, and you get hit by the emotional trigger. You think about something the narcissist did to harm you or torture you, and then your brain can go to this place of like perseveration, where it's almost like OCD. It's like over and over and over again, you're ruminating on the harm that this psychologically disturbed, mentally ill person caused you, and you can't get out of it. You're trapped. It's just like somebody with PTSD, in a sense, from serving in combat. You feel trapped. You feel like you can't get out of it. Your brain can't stop with the ruminations. So these are all some of the possible signs that you are currently being abused by a narcissist or sociopath or a manipulator, or these are also signs that you haven't healed from the trauma yet. And of course, where you are on this spectrum varies. If you're in the very beginning realization that you were with a cluster B personality, then these symptoms can be very, very intense. If you've done some of the healing along the path, then these symptoms can really start to alleviate. But I really believe that you've got to do some active healing techniques. These are just some of the recommendations. Read the book Whole Again. Well, read the first book called Psychopath Free by Jackson McKinsey. And then the second book, Whole Again by Jackson McKinsey, is also a really good book on how to heal, how to integrate, how to come back to a place of, normalcy after this experience, how to, there's a lot of methods in there on how you can heal. Another one is The Body Keeps the Score. That has, 20 years of research on trauma in general and how to heal from trauma. Other things that might be helpful. One other book that I think of is How to Heal from Hidden Abuse. That one's a really good book too. There are quite a few YouTube videos and courses. Dr. Rhonda Freeman has a course on the neuroscience and how to heal your brain after narcissistic and sociopathic abuse. Richard Grannon has a really good course on how to heal from narcissistic abuse. Ross Rosenberg has a lot of videos and also some courses. He actually has intensive weekend retreats. Another one, Dr. Kevin Skinner from Bloom, he has quite a few retreats that are a little bit more tailored towards sex addict narcissists. And a lot of narcissists are sex addicts. They have sex or porn addiction, usually a hidden sex or porn addiction. It's all over the research. It's all over the forums. Those two are pretty, there's a lot of comorbidity there. So, healing from betrayal trauma, that's another one. There's some weekend retreats you can do through the Meadows, and obviously those cost money. So I understand that some of these are not easily affordable for everyone. So there's a lot of books you can read. Also, you can heal. There's a workbook on healing complex PTSD. That's a very helpful workbook. You can do guided meditations for healing trauma. There's a bunch of free ones on YouTube. You can also, if you can afford it, if you can get therapy, you can do EMDR therapy, which is very helpful. You can also do tapping, which is helpful. Meditation courses, which are very helpful. There's some online. I subscribe to this one called 10% Happier, and it's all about learning how to meditate and healing from trauma. Let's see what else. Also, I did transcranial magnetic stimulation. That I got into a free study because I was diagnosed with complex PTSD. I also had some other confounding variables of being involved in or surviving a natural disaster, an earthquake, avalanche, and then some other traumas. So that TMS was, that study I was in was for healing, that PTSD, including the, trauma of the narcissistically abusive relationship. So there's just a lot of different things that you can do to help yourself. Also, there's some 12-step recovery programs, CODA. There's also Al-Anon or S-Anon, which is for partners of sex addicts or people who have been in relationships with sex or porn addicts. And remember, a lot of these narcs are sex and porn addicts. So those are some of the 12-step recovery groups that you could be involved in that might help you. And then also, if you have developed a substance abuse disorder, from, sometimes it's from the trauma. A lot of times, people come from childhood trauma, which puts them in a more vulnerable state or having a higher proclivity of attracting, a narcissist. Codependents are like yummy, yummy food for narcissists because they have this people pleasing. They want to make everyone happy. They go to the ends of the earth to help others. And a narcissist just loves that because they're pathological takers. And so they absolutely adore pathological givers. They just love it. They just eat them up like dinner. So, these are some of the things that, may help you to heal. But if you're experiencing any of those symptoms that I just went over of complex PTSD or narcissistic abuse syndrome, then please get the help that you need to heal. There is help. There is hope. You can heal. It just takes, I think, a lot of active participation to heal, and also healing that sort of childhood trauma, which may have put which may have begun the journey of like putting yourself in a position or not having good enough boundaries to actually be in a position to be attracted to a narcissist. Because I think once you start to heal that, once you start getting really good boundaries, once you start developing self-love, you won't let yourself be with a narc. You won't let yourself be with a highly manipulative person, because you'll start seeing the signs and you'll set boundaries around it. So thanks so much. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.